Have you ever felt so frustrated that you wanted to throw something? Meet Dr. Hatch Salmon. Now, this isn't your average tale of a man battling his demons. No, this is a tale of a man, a controller, and the unforgiving world of Mortal Kombat. Picture this: Dr. Salmon, eyes glued to the screen, fingers dancing over the controller's buttons. He's been at it for hours, each crushing defeat fueling his growing frustration. And what's his solution? A bottle of whiskey, of course. Yes, Dr. Salmon decided to dance with Lady Liquor, hoping she'd soothe his nerves and sharpen his skills. But alas, the whiskey only added to his defeat, making him more reckless, more furious. With a slurred shout that would make a sailor blush, he hurls his controller across the room. It shatters against the wall, pieces scattering like his hopes of victory. With controller shards scattered across the room and a whiskey-stained shirt, Dr. Salmon's determination to win was unshaken. In the midst of his rage-filled gaming session, something unexpected happened. Just when Dr. Hatch Salmon was on the brink of another meltdown, a strange sense of calm washed over him. It was like he had been thrown into a serene sea, away from the storm of his frustration. His hands, once shaking with rage and whiskey, steadied. His mind, once clouded with anger, focused. All distractions faded into the background. It was just him and the game. His heart pounded like a drum as he navigated through the virtual battlefield. And then, against all odds, he emerged victorious. His triumphant shout echoed around the room, a sweet symphony of victory. The feeling of euphoria was overwhelming, making his head spin more than the whiskey ever did. He jumped off the couch, his feet barely touching the ground as he danced in his drunken stupor. In his victory-induced euphoria, he danced around the room, his feet barely touching the ground. Dr. Salmon's victory dance was short-lived. In a haze of euphoria, our protagonist did a drunken pirouette right into his beloved television. The resulting crash was like a symphony of destruction, the crescendo being the shattering of the screen. In a fit of rage, Dr. Salmon did what any reasonable man would do. He called the TV a jackass, and with a strength only whiskey could provide, marched it upstairs and unceremoniously hurled it out the window. The sight of the TV, now a kaleidoscope of shattered electronics on the lawn, would have been a spectacle to behold. As the dust settled, so did Dr. Salmon's adrenaline. The reality of his actions hit him like a tidal wave. Staring at his reflection in the shards of the broken TV, he was a picture of despair. With the broken TV on the lawn and his tears streaming down his face, Dr. Hatch Salmon had a sobering realization. He had let his frustration get the best of him. In the silence that followed his rage, Dr. Salmon was left with a bitter taste of defeat. A moment ago he was the conqueror of the virtual world, a king in his own right. But now the only thing he was left with was the shattered remnants of his television, a symbol of his volatile victory. Dr. Hatch Salmon, a man of academia, a scholar, a thinker, had been brought to his knees, not by a complex theorem or an elusive scientific discovery, but by a video game. A game that was supposed to be an escape from the rigors of his daily life had instead become a mirror, reflecting back at him his own shortcomings. His hands, shaking, clenched the fabric of his shirt as he fought to control the wave of emotions threatening to consume him. Anger, frustration, embarrassment, and above all, a deep-seated sense of failure. Not just the failure of losing, but the failure of losing control, of letting his emotions dictate his actions. The virtual world, a realm where he was supposed to be invincible, had become a battleground that had left him wounded and defeated. He had been so consumed by the desire to win, to prove to himself that he was capable of conquering this digital domain, that he had lost sight of the real world. The world where he was Dr. Hatch Salmon, a respected academic, not a failed warrior in a video game. It was in this moment of despair that Dr. Salmon experienced what could only be described as a moment of clarity. As he sat there amidst the broken pieces of his television, he realized that his failure was not in the game, but in his approach to it. He had let the game consume him, dictate his emotions, and ultimately control his actions. The realization was both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because he finally understood the root of his problem. Terrifying because he was now faced with the daunting task of confronting his failure. He had to face the fact that he had allowed a video game, a form of entertainment, to take over his life. He had allowed it to dictate his emotions, his actions, and ultimately his sense of self-worth. And so he sat there, amidst the broken pieces of his television, and began a journey of self-reflection. He began to question his obsession with winning, his need for validation, and his inability to handle defeat. He questioned why he had allowed a video game to become such a significant part of his life, why he allowed it to define him, to control him. He thought about the countless hours he had spent, controller in hand, eyes glued to the screen, completely oblivious to the world around him. He thought about the numerous times he had neglected his responsibilities, his relationships, his health, all in the pursuit of victory. He thought about the countless times he had let his anger get the better of him, lashing out at anyone and anything that dared to interrupt his gaming sessions. Dr. Salmon realized that he had become a prisoner of his own obsession. His pursuit of victory had turned into a journey of self-destruction. He had become so consumed by the game that he had lost touch with reality. He had lost touch with himself. This realization was a bitter pill to swallow. To admit that he had let a video game control his life was a blow to his ego, a dent in his pride. But it was a necessary step towards recovery. And so, with a heavy heart, Dr. Salmon made a decision. He decided to step away from the game. He decided to reclaim his life, his sanity, his sense of self. He decided to confront his failure head-on, to learn from it, to grow from it. He realized that his life was more than just a game. It was more than just about winning or losing. It was about living, experiencing, growing, and learning. And so, with this newfound wisdom, Dr. Salmon decided to embark on a new journey. A journey of self-discovery, of self-improvement, and of self-love. He decided to take control of his life, to live it on his own terms, to find happiness in the little things. He decided to let go of his obsession with winning and instead focus on enjoying the journey. He decided to find joy in the simple things like the taste of cheese, the warmth of a good drink, and the comfort of a peaceful sleep. Dr. Salmon's story is a reminder that victory is sweet, but it's the journey that truly tests us. It's a reminder that sometimes it's not about winning, but about learning, growing, and finding joy in the journey. It's a reminder that life is more than just a game, it's an adventure. And like any adventure, it's not about the destination, but about the journey. And so, as Dr. Salmon embarks on this new journey, let us remember his story. Let us remember the lessons he learned, the wisdom he gained, and the strength he found in his failure. Let us remember that it's not about winning, but about growing, learning, and most importantly, enjoying the journey. Dr. Hatch Salmon's story is a reminder that victory is sweet, but it's the journey that truly tests us.